is John from ticketmotorbikes.com, and this is a video to explain how to drive a manual motorbike. Quick disclaimer about myself: everything I know and have learned is through driving low cc motorbikes within Vietnam. I do not have experience driving high powered machines back home, so this is specific to small bikes within this country. Most bikes, if it's a Chinese Honda Win, will have 4 gears. If it's a proper bike, it will have 5 or 6, down to 1, up to 2, up to 3, up to 4, and up to 5. Neutral is between 1 and 2, so down to 1 and then a gentle half click up towards gear 2 will get you neutral. When you're normally driving along, the bike will naturally skip neutral 1 straight to 2, but it does mean for beginner drivers neutral can be a bit fiddly to get. Basically, it takes practice. Over on your left hand here, probably the most important thing with the manual motorbike is the clutch. The idea being here, it disengages the engine when you pull it in, so every single time you change gears, the clutch must be coming in. Now if you drive a manual car, everything you know about your left foot, you change to your left hand on the manual motorbike. So if you ever drive a manual car, you have a good chance of being able to drive a manual motorbike. However, if you do not drive a manual car, you have an awful lot more to learn. So the basic idea is when you're driving and you're changing gears, clutch in, then you go off the gas, change gear, and then slowly off the clutch again. So to give you an example, let's get started. When you're learning, you want to be very slow when releasing the clutch. You can't really go slow enough. The slower the better in many ways. Clutch in, down to gear 1, slowly off the clutch. Now you can see the bike beginning to move forwards, and then whoops, I stalled. So that happened because I got to here and then in my fingertips I released, and that's a very common problem with the new drivers. You must continue to go slowly all the way through your fingertips. So let's try that again. So slowly off the clutch, the bike is moving forwards. This is the biting point now, and then continue to go slowly off the clutch, and we're now rolling. Now I just did all of that with no gas at all. Not all bikes will do that, but a lot of them will. But the point is, you don't need to give any bike a lot of gas. It should be done through your clutch control with your left hand. The slower you release, the better it's going to be for a new driver. If you are the kind of person who releases too quickly and you apply a lot of gas, you'll find you pop a wheelie. That's not what you want to do. So really slow on the clutch when you're learning. Can't emphasize that anymore. It's probably the most important thing. So gear 1 is designed for accelerating quickly with a low top speed, and because of that it's quite a jumpy gear, not that nice for driving around. So really it should be in gear 2. Clutch in, off the gas, gear 2, slowly off the clutch again. Now gear 2 is where you want to be really for driving around slowly. If you watch my left hand here, I am playing with the clutch. Now this is to drive smoothly within gear 2. I'll have to stop here, go back to gear 1, and I'll continue with that in a second. But the idea is your clutch control in your left hand, and it's really important to learn. So once again, clutch in, off the gas, gear 2. So it's this idea of controlling the speed of your bike using your left hand. Now in gear 2 here, I'm driving slowly. I can accelerate quickly, I can brake easily. Basically I have a lot of control over the motorbike. So now coming up to traffic lights, clutch in, braking, down to gear 1, I have a choice. I can sit here in gear 1 and hold the clutch, or I can put it into neutral and let go. It doesn't matter which one you do. Clutch in, down to gear 1, and slowly off the clutch. You can turn right at red traffic lights here, no worries. So here we go again. Clutch in, off the gas, gear 2, slowly off the clutch. Clutch in, off the gas, gear 3, slowly off the clutch. Clutch in, off the gas, gear 4, and gear 5. So now coming up to traffic lights shortly in a right turn, I want to prepare early, get myself back into gear 2. Clutch in, braking, down to 4, slowly off the clutch. Clutch in, braking, down to 3, slowly off the clutch. Clutch in, braking, down to 2, slowly off the clutch. Now gear 2 is where you want to be for going around tight corners. As I said earlier, it's basically where you have the most control over the motorbike. Up to 3, up to 4, and up to 5. This time I'm going to be a bit more aggressive and go gear 5 straight down to gear 2. So clutch in, braking, down to 4, down to 3, and down to 2, slowly off the clutch. I prepared a little bit late there because of the traffic, but you want to try and be fully in the gear before going around the corner. So up to 3, up to 4. So when you slow down, you need to be pulling in the clutch, or at the very least thinking about pulling in the clutch. I'm going to do a small kind of emergency brake here to show you my left hand when I'm emergency stopping. No one's behind me. So here we go, clutch in, braking, down to 3, down to 2, down to 1. So I pulled in the clutch, and that's the situation you can imagine. A dog comes out or a taxi comes out. That's pretty common here. But you need to be pulling in the clutch, otherwise you find yourself fighting with the gears and the engine, which isn't too helpful. So when you slow down, or you're thinking about slowing down, your clutch should be in your mind as well as your brakes. So now talking about burning out the clutch, this is what happens when you slip the disc. So you can be sort of playing with the clutch like this. I'm in gear 2 at the moment, and then high acceleration, and what's happening there is the clutch is not engaged properly, so the engine's revving but the bike is not accelerating. Now if you do that over time, you're going to burn out the clutch, and this will eventually cause the motorbike to not move at all. It will just be dead in the ground. You have to replace the clutch, which is relatively expensive depending on the model, usually around $50 to $70. And the other thing that happens is the clutch on your left hand side here can engage. So if you find your biting point is too far in your fingertips, normally the biting point should be around here, but if it's really far in your fingertips, you have the same situation where when you accelerate, the engine revs up but the bike doesn't really move forwards. If you have this, you'll eventually break the motorbike, and you just need to get this adjusted. It's not common, but it can happen. Sometimes security guys play with the settings here, and it can cause problems for customers. So then the last point I really want to talk about is the idea of gears. So gear 1 is for accelerating with a low top speed. Gear 5 is a high top speed, low acceleration. And what we're finding sometimes, car's not moving very fast, is people are driving around in gear 5 like this with, and going way too, oh I actually stalled it, I pushed it so far, and you can hear the bike really struggling in that gear, and people are driving them up hills like this. It doesn't matter how good the motorbike is, if you do that, it is going to break. And I think this is where you need to consider, if you've never driven a manual motorbike, are you someone who's naturally gifted with vehicles or not? Does this concept of gears make any sense? Because it doesn't matter if the bike is high quality, if you drive it wrong, it's gonna fall apart on you. And if you're that kind of person, maybe the semi-automatic is better, where you can have gears but no clutch. There's such a nice learning curve towards driving a manual motorbike. So the Honda Blade really is the safe option. The other thing that people do, even experienced drivers, it's very strange in my mind, but even people with bikes back home, they come along and they start stamping on the gears like this. I can't really understand why. Now basically you only need to give it a very gentle tap and the bike will change gear. There is no aggression needed in the gear changes. So if you're having to stamp on the motorbike, you're doing something wrong. Now I think what happens is, I'm just gonna put it in the wrong gear. People come to a stop. For example, I am now in gear 5 and I'm thinking, oh, I need to get neutral. So I can change to 4, that's okay. But I can't sit here and stamp on it. The bike's not gonna change gears. What you need to do, you release the clutch, change gear, release the clutch, change gear, release the clutch, change gear, and then I got neutral. When you get quick at it, you can do it very quickly. and you can go up and down the gears freely once you learn, again, clutch control. So the other area people struggle with sometimes, they can't get neutral once the bike is stationary. To get around this problem, go up into gear 2, and as the bike is still moving, clutch in, and now you can get neutral easily with the bike actually moving. It takes practice to get neutral. Try and prepare early for those situations when you think you're going to want to finish in neutral. But again, very, very gentle with the gear pedal. You don't need to be aggressive. Now, if your bike is difficult to get neutral, it doesn't mean the bike is broken or rubbish. It's actually generally down to the tension of the chain. A tight chain will make the gears harder to change to begin with, and then also down to the way the clutch is set up. So basically, this is just a reminder to the people, if you're not sure if you can drive a manual, seriously consider about the holiday you're embarking on, and also realize that a manual motorbike, no matter how good it's going to be, will break if you drive it incorrectly. If you're not sure, then please select the semi-automatic. If you drive a manual car, you should be absolutely fine with these. Mostly I'm talking about people who don't have experience with manual cars. So this is John from TiggerMotorbikes.com. Quick video about manual motorbikes.